Hello there, and welcome to my amazing channel. I am the Chunkus, and today I'm going to be talking about a highly debated topic in the Bleach community, that being the highest ranked Soul Reaper, the leader and founder of the Gotei 13, Yamamoto Genryusai, versus the monk who calls the real name, the High Priest, the leader of Squad Zero, Ichibei Hyosei. There's been a great debate for many years over this topic, so I'm going to tell you the obvious truth of the matter. I'll be going through both characters' abilities and scaling in the series, as well as lore around the character and statements for both. I'm going to start with Ichibei Hyosei. Ichibei is introduced into the Bleach story after the devastating first invasion by the Quincy leader Yamamoto, which is in chapter 516 of the manga. Upon his arrival with the other Squad Zero members, Shunsui makes a remark that all 5 of the Shinigami in the transport device are captains. This will be important to remember later, with Ichibei himself also referring to them as captains shown here. Ichibei has a statement saying Korinji is no match for him, and implying Korinji is the weakest among all Squad 5 members. The first fight we see, and that we are aware of, that includes Ichibei, happens in the Bleach novel Can't Fear Your Own World, where it's stated that Ichibei sealed the hollow Iko Mikidomoi over 2,000 years ago. This Iko is stated to be relative to Baragon, you can see that here, and is stated that the reason Ichibei was able to seal this powerful hollow was because the hollow had fought a young teenage Yamamoto. It's very interesting as the wording used to describe this event says as follows. He tried to scale the skies in an attempt to consume the rail, but as a result of the battle with Soul Reapers such as Shigekuni Yamamoto, who was still a youthful hero at the time, he was defeated at the hands of Manako Osho and Oetsu Nimaya, implying it was Yama who did the main damage. That was enough for him to be sealed. Another way to look at this statement, if you didn't understand that, is if I phrase it like this. But as a result of the battle against Shinigami such as Kurosaki Ichigo, Aizen was defeated at the hands of Kizugate Urahara. It implies both that Yama and Ichigo were the key person needed in their respective battles. Later on in the series, we are introduced to a scene in the anime that thanks to Kubo's wonderful work, which shows us their interaction between Ichibei and Yamamoto 1,000 years ago, just before the first invasion. In this, we are shown how Yamamoto's almighty ability was sealed by Pernida, the left arm of the Soul King, for anyone who didn't know who Pernida is. In this exchange, Ichibei attempts to kill Yamamoto with Pernida, who at the time would upscale Ichibei's abilities, as he is fused with him and can call him out to his arms and stuff. But Yamamoto casually speed blitz and grabs Ichibei's arm, defending himself with blood. Ichibei's face shows us the astoundment and true speed of Yamamoto being shown here as Ichibei got blitzed. You can see this in his face. It affects his amazement to the fact that Yamamoto has now appeared in front of him, grabbing him, which I think goes very underrated, and no one really mentions it, which is a bit silly to me, but it's a good feat. 1,000 years after the second invasion, Yamamoto into the Soul Palace in an attempt to kill Reo, however is interrupted by Squad Zero. After escaping Hikafune's Cage of Life thanks to Urio's antithesis ability, he storms to Reo, where he is greeted by Ichibei, who intends to stop him. Yamamoto, not caring about Ichibei's power, tells him to step aside as he is not worthy. Ichibei then declares he is going to stop Yamamoto and draws a space with his Zanpakuto. Yamamoto is unfazed by this and goes on to say that he will defeat Ichibei 3 steps short of the space Ichibei has created, as shown here. After this, Yamamoto is sent flying off the Soul Palace by Ichibei's Shikai attack, which does not damage Yamamoto at all. Yamamoto uses Sank Bogen to shoot himself back up to the Soul Palace. Ichibei, from a massive distance away, is barely able to dodge and is actually damaged by the attack, showing Yamamoto has the AP to kill him with arrows. Ichibei and Yamamoto clash several times, which also goes widely unnoticed by the Bleach community, as Ichibei's Zanpakuto actually halves the power of whatever it touches. So when they clash, for example, this means that his power is getting halved every time. They clash 4 times, meaning in this moment of time, on the 4th clash, Yamamoto is weaker than 25% of his power. To put that into perspective for you guys, Yamamoto was fighting an 80% Roid, and so that'd be a lesser 25% power Yamamoto versus an 80% power Roid. There's a massive difference between the two, and at this time when Yamamoto is at 25% power or less, Ichibei can't simply grab his sword, which is a notable thing, as it's shown in series that if there's a big enough power difference, such as Grimmjow catching Tenzan Getsu, Aizen catching Ichigo's sword, Ichigo catching Aizen's sword, Kenpachi with Shikai Ichigo when he blocked it with his chest, Neutra, if there is a big enough difference, you can simply catch and avoid these things. You can just negate them. Yuha at 25% power, Ichibei is not able to catch his sword and just one-shot him. As the fight continues, Yuha effortlessly restores the power taken from him, and Ichibei directly again cuts Yuha's power in half, stating it himself. Ichibei is still able to keep up with Yuha once he has given himself power back, which is okay, which is a good feat for Ichibei, showing he can handle the normal power of Yuha. But yeah, he shows the lack of ability to one-shot him in his weakened state, which I think is really bad. Ichibei's abilities rely heavily on nerfing his opponent and then trying to overpower them. It's not based on him having the actual strength, as shown throughout the series. He waits to nerf his opponents to then beat them down. Yuha activates Ausweilen, which a lot of people don't understand didn't give Yuha any power, but was rather given to the Sternritter to revive them and help with their battle against Squad Zero. Even if you were to try and say Yuha gained anything, just ask that person to quantify what he gained, as nothing showed. His AP, speed, DC and durability aren't shown to increase, nor would it stated to have increased. This was a solely Elite Sternritter revival and amp to them. That was solely what it was for. Yuha decided to steal Ichibei's power using Zanktolter, which is stated by Kubo to be an unrefined version of Bankai stealing. And a lot of people also miss that Ichibei verbatim confirms his power did get stolen, and the fact that Yuha not being able to use it has nothing to do with power, but rather Ichibei's own. Ichibei owns his power as a concept. He owns the power black as a concept. It should also be noted that when Ichibei went out of his way to seal the medallion containing Yama's Bankai, showing us Ichibei wanted no smoke from Zanka no Tachi. Ichibei then uses Bankai to change Yuha's name to Black Ant, stating that he has now gained properties and strength of a Black Ant. Stomping on Yuha, Ichibei is almost able to kill Yuha, but then Yuha regains the Almighty and proceeds to neg Ichimoji's abilities. Ichibei then resorts to his ultimate attack, Futen Taisatsu Saru, but again is also negged by the Almighty, and then Ichibei is killed. Some notable things that we should be aware of in this is that Yuha during the second invasion had been absorbing souls of the normal Quincy, the Sternritter, and people. People like to come up with random garbage stating like the second invasion Yuha and the first invasion aren't close in power. However, that's just wrong. Yuha absorbs dying Royd's corpse before he kills Yamamoto, and he still absorbs Royd, and then Yuha still steals Yamamoto's Bankai, implying he doesn't want to fight for Bankai. He absorbs Gremmy, Mask, Kang, and BG9, who all get bodied by Shikai Yama, so what difference does that make? It makes none. Furthermore, it does not mean, for example, Yuha does not gain the masculine in power simply because Mask died. He absorbs the power inside his soul, which scales nowhere. People try to say that Yuha gains their whole max power as if fusing with them, which is just wrong. You would have to prove he gains like a mask in power. Like that's just not how that works. He literally just gains the souls, like a bit of power that the Sternritter added to the script originally, and yeah, that's it. He doesn't gain like the max lifting potential of Mask doesn't suddenly get added to Yuha's lifting potential because he died. Like that's not how that works. There's also a statement saying that the Soul Reapers get absorbed, and Ichibei scalers try to use this to say he got a Bankai increase, a Yama Bankai increase, which is retarded, as in the new Hell chapter. It's verbatim confirmed that Yama went to Hell and didn't absorb him. It's stated that Yuha is alive, harsh as a half-conscious corpse, acting as the new Soul King, which disproves Yama being absorbed, as if Yuha is still alive, how can Yama's soul be free? I've always thought of this as a ratty argument that gets debunked by people that actually know the lore. Another thing is that Almighty does not increase AP, nor is it ever stated to, and if anyone claims it does, ask them for scans, they won't be able to provide any. With that in mind, Yuha's arrows blow a massive hole. One more is that ichibei is called the head of the Shinigami after Yama has died, meaning he was promoted, which is backed up by this, which separates the head captain position and the top Soul Reaper rank, meaning Yama hold both titles at the same time. This isn't a one-off, there's multiple backing this up. Now, if we were to move on to Yamamoto, this topic really becomes one-sided. We're introduced to Yamamoto in the iconic Soul Society arc, with amazing spread of him sitting between all of the captains. During this arc, we get to see Yamamoto SP Negna now so hard she has a seizure. Yama proceeds to release his Shikai Ryujin Jaka, which Ukitake, who is stated to have an SP greater than all of the captains combined, including 1,000-year Blood War Zaraki, states upon seeing Ryujin Jaka, "How long has it been since I last felt the fear and weight of the deep sea? This transcendent spiritual pressure, even in its Shikai state. That most terrible of Zanpakuto, the oldest and greatest of them all, Ryujin Jaka." It is Ukitake, who holds the right arm of Reo, states that Shikai Yama has a transcendent spiritual pressure, which is crazy considering the novel stated that due to Iko Mikidomo absorbing a mere fragment of Reo, it was enough to SP neg Ichibei's Ichimonji, and Ukitake doesn't hold a mere fragment but the living right arm. Ichibei's transcendent spiritual pressure statement was removed from the anime, which is really like something to be noticed. Ukitake and Shunsui call it the greatest Zanpakuto, referring to Ryujin Jaka, and are both aware of Ichibei's existence, shown here when Shunsui is talking about Squad Zero, and upon Shunsui seeing Ichibei, he calls him Osho, knowing his title and knowing who to call Osho. It's not like he called Namaya Osho, he knew who Ichibei was, which like people try to say, "Oh, prove Ichibei, prove Kyoku knows about Ichibei's power." Like, of course he would. Like, it's retarded to argue otherwise. Aizen later in the Fate Kamakura Town arc also states that his ultimate Zanpakuto. Aizen, knowing about Ichibei, as Shunsui told him about Squad Zero, and the fact that Aizen is stated to have studied all of Soul Society's lore and knows the true condition of the Soul King, Aizen, and wanted to replace him because of that. It would be beyond illogical to say Aizen doesn't know Ichibei's abilities, especially as he knows about Mimihagi, the original sin, which is Soul Society's biggest secret, whereas Ichibei isn't a secret and in fact has to guard the Soul King Aizen studied. Furthermore, it's stated by Byakuya that every Bankai is etched into Soul Society's lore. Ichibei having a Bankai would be included. What's even crazier is that these statements are about Ryujin Jaka in its Shikai state as well. Aizen had created a being using a reality warping wish granting orb that had to have all other abilities taken away from the being he was created, just for the sole purpose that it could seal Ryujin Jaka, right? As Aizen doesn't want to fight Yamamoto himself and created Wonderwise, we know Aizen wasn't anywhere near Yama's level due to this databook statement stating Aizen wasn't a threat to Yamamoto. In the 1,000-year Blood War arc, we see Yamamoto face off against Royd, who was 80% of Yuha's power before Blood, which could mean he was even stronger. Yamamoto at the beginning of the fight casually speed blitzed Royd in Shikai twice, and also cut off Royd's arm using the casual swing of an unnamed Shikai attack. Yuha is barely able to keep up with a small gap, is barely able to cut a small gap between the ocean of flames. Something to be noted here is that Yama had not released Shikai properly, meaning his unnamed attack wasn't even normal Shikai level. We know that Shikai names that aren't called out are weaker to Kubo, thanks to Kubo's answer on Club Outside stating, "Only experts can release their Shikai without its release command, but it will take some time for its abilities to reach 100% efficiency." Yama states he had been waiting for Yuha to draw his sword, hence why he didn't just one-shot him when he was behind him when he speed blitzed him the second time. He says this so he can teach Yuha true regret, not that he's struggling with him at this level, as shown as Yuha is easily cut by Yama's unnamed Shikai attack. Yama then activates Bankai. Once Yama is in Bankai, everyone in Soul Society begins to have their souls slowly burned away by Yama's transcendent spiritual pressure. A way to look at this is like the Spirit Crush, just happening all over the Soul Society, only much stronger and controlled. To an extent, no one can feel Yama's SP. They only know what's going on due to the environment. Unohana notices what's happening once Hisane points out her skin is drying, and she looks at the water evaporate in the glass cups you see here. She cannot sense Yamamoto's spiritual pressure. Shunsui, due to him taking damage, he's able to notice. Just because Yama is casually existing in Bankai as well, he is able to. It is just destroying Shunsui's soul. Just because Yama is solely standing in Bankai, it is causing Shunsui's soul to just be evaporated. Toshira's Bankai has been completely SP negged, making it unusable, also meaning he wouldn't even be able to use it in adult form as the ice petals melt, which means his Bankai can't handle it. We know these ice petals are relevant to his Bankai. They suggested these are his Bankai powers. When he goes into his true adult form. It's part of the same Bankai, just regardless of him being in a smaller form. We also see this flower get completely set on fire, meaning Yama is destroying Reishi itself, which just backs up the two statements of him being able to destroy the Soul Society and everyone in it, as Yama, who is the strongest himself, says he will also die if he uses it too long. Something to be noticed is that transcendent spiritual pressure isn't exclusive to Aizen, especially since we have the Shikai Yama statement and this statement saying one cannot perceive too strong a spiritual pressure. Aizen was the first to prove it, implying there are multiple times it happens, not that Aizen was the first to achieve it, but rather show it off. Another thing to be noted is that Yamamoto only has one arm, which is shown to be a massive effect, and he is holding back his power so he doesn't destroy the Soul Society, as it's his job to protect Soul Society, meaning that we never see a true power Bankai Yamamoto. Hashwolf, upon seeing Yamamoto, can't sense a danger coming off the sword, but is quickly told by Yuha to not underestimate it, that he would get one shot, in fact, showing the difference between Yama and Hashwolf. Yama then shows off his sword, then shows how his sword erases things from existence with sheer spiritual pressure. Yuha goes to attack Yama with his sword, but is completely erased by Yama's West ability. Something to take in notice, this is the same phenomena that happens when the Kido member tries to touch Aizen, but as his fingers erased by the transcendent spiritual pressure. Yama states he will bring it down to their level of awareness, the same as Aizen stated he did, but Hashwolf and Royd couldn't see the cloak at first, and when he does, he has to work out that it's not fire, but just raw SP. Royd states that he would die just existing near Yama if it weren't for Blute amping himself. Royd then uses a Hax attack, not reliant on AP, to try and catch Yama, but then Yama activates his South ability and swarms Yuha. These skeletons are fast enough to block an attack from Yuha, and then Yama casually one-shots this 80% amped Yuha. After the fight, the real Yuha shows up behind Yamamoto, whilst Yama is focused on his barracks being destroyed and thinking about his third seat occupier. Yuha kills Royd and states he had been in Muken visiting Aizen. Whilst visiting Aizen, Aizen actually comments on Yama's SP and this is the strongest version of Aizen we see. Aizen states the unpleasant spiritual pressure swirling on the surface is enough to tell me what's going on, implying he can feel it down there and is affecting the area, which is backed up from the scan which is backed up by this scan of Shunsui stating it's shaking. You can feel it even down here. When it stated the Soul Society was being crushed, it would be biased and downright illogical to say this states it's destroying Soul Society and it applies to the Soul King dying here, but not when it applies to Yama destroying the Soul Society. This proves Yama is destroying Muken as well as the Valley of Screams. This is also the strongest Aizen we have seen, and he doesn't like the power of the strongest Zanpakuto. Yuha then slyly, almost mockingly asks if Yama exhausted his power, Yama, still confident he can defeat the being he can sense in front of him using his spiritual sensing powers, reactivates Bankai to have the exhausted power stolen, which goes in hand of him having low stamina alongside Ukitake. Hence, he was baited into using his power. Yama then has his Bankai stolen, with Yuha remarking that only he could have stolen the power, verbatim stating Yama is above the elites. Yuha then steals the Bankai so he doesn't have to fight it, knowing he would lose. Um, and then, as he lost 1,000 years ago, Royd got one shot, and he has shown back up 1,000 years later with a literal Bankai stealing device. Yuha does not want to fight Yama, does not intend to fight Yama, he does not intend to take on that Bankai. He tends to take the power away when Yama was in his weakest. He actually praises Yama after killing him, saying he was truly a beast with the sword. Yama lets himself be killed, knowing that he can't fight his Bankai using his Shikai. This all shows that Yuha considered Yama a greater power than Ichibei. The way he treats Zanpakuto, one dealing with it head on and the other hiding from it, awaiting his power to drop and stealing it. Yuha was also actually watching from the side for those who try to argue he wasn't there for ages, as Yuha quotes Yama on what he said earlier in the battle, showing he was watching from somewhere. Yuha doesn't even react to Senjumaru's Bankai, but praises Yama's. Yuha already know he beat Ichibei before he started fighting. I searched endlessly for statements putting Ichibei above, but not one exists in Bleach, where shown here, Yama has loads calling him the strongest Shinigami, and 2 saying he's above Ichibei. This is from the databook 13 Blades, and it states that Yama is the highest ranking Soul Reaper, and it's separate to his position as head captain. This is also, which also, um, which is also implied due to Squad Zero coming down solely due to Yama being killed. Um, This TV guide statement says Yama can be called the strongest Shinigami. This 13th data book statement says Yama has a power surpassing that of the other divisions. Ichibei is the head of the Zero division, so this verbatim states Yama is above Ichibei. For those who wanted it clear in writing, here is it verbatim stating Yama is above Ichibei. Let me say that one more time. Verbatim stating that he has a power above the other divisions. Ichibei, a member of the Zero division. Thank you, people. Ichibei is also included in this data book, which a lot of people ignore. A novel statement by Tokunada stating no being could beat Yamamoto. Tokunada has been to the royal palace and still states that that Yamamoto, that no being could beat Yamamoto, and Tokunada is aware that Iko got sealed by Ichimonji. Tokunada went to the Soul Palace to steal the sword. He's aware of Squad Zero's powers, and he states no being could beat Yamamoto. So there's another statement putting Yamamoto above Ichibei. Here are 2 statements comparing Aizen and Yamamoto's SP, one saying they both have a power beyond the realm of common sense, stated by Shunsui, who knows about a 1,000-year blood war Bankai Kenpachi. Here's another one saying that if Tokunada had Yamamoto's SP, he wouldn't even need to use Koyoka Suigetsu. He could simply one-shot everyone there, destroying their Zanpakutos as well. Here's Hakone being stated below Yama. Shunsui is relieved that Tokunada cannot use Shikai Yama's abilities properly, and stated that if he had, everyone would be killed. This concludes that if the 2 were to fight, Yama would undoubtedly win. Thank you, guys. I'm sure I'll be seeing you in the next one. I'm sure there's going to be a mass amount of butthurt Ichibei stands in the comments. Cry some more. Yama on top.